Have you ever gone out on a planned shoot and then everything just went wrong? This is what happened to me recently when I was back home in Utah and going to my favorite dark sky area to do Milky Way time lapses and Milky Way fine art photography. You can see I've got the camera down here, and the foreground is going to be this dried up tree root. There's the camera down there and the tree root here. Now as it gets dark, the shutter speed will be dragged out and it'll start collecting more and more ambient light. And so over there, I've got a light set up. And this is what I like to do is I like to take about 45 degrees to one side and set up a light as high as I can, but only on 1 or 2% or just a couple of looms of light. And as the shutter speed drags out to 15 seconds, and eventually I'm going to be at 15 seconds, then that tree those roots will be illuminated by this light. You see, it's a very soft LCD panel light that'll last all night, although I'm only going to be here till about midnight. So that's that's just out of view of this camera. Now, how do I know where the Milky Way is going to be? Okay, so what I'll do to find out where the Milky Way is, and there's a lot of ways to do that. I've planned this out on photo pills. So if I go to planner, I can see where the Milky Way is. That's south. That's the direction I'm facing. And you can see as the night goes on, the Milky Way will adjust. So it'll come from my left here, and it'll cross the sky. Another way I can do is if I go to Sky Guide. Now what I've done is I put in the time of almost midnight. I just fast forwarded until I got to very close to midnight. And as you can see, as I move this phone around, it will show where the Milky Way is. And so it lined up with the camera down here. And what I've got with the Milky Way here, you can see that the Milky Way is going to cross from left to right with that root, that dried tree, and those mountains in the foreground. And so that's how I set up, and the light will illuminate it. Then I'll just come and I'll adjust for the Milky Way settings, the camera, which is on internal intervalometer. What I might do with the other one, I'm just thinking as I go, is set it up so that it rotates with the Earth, keeping the Milky Way in focus the whole time. And that would be a pretty cool, motion time lapse as it goes. So let's at least go try it. This is one of those nights where you go out and it's just exciting to be outside. I'm in a very dark area, which means the stars are bright. There's no moon, there's no clouds, there was nobody around. It was just a perfect night. Unfortunately, I have two backpacks that look the same. One has my star tracker in it and all the tripod heads, and the other one has my drone in it. And I took the backpack with the drone and left the star tracker and a lot of the ball heads at home. This first setup was what I planned to do, but it just didn't work out. The problem is now that I only had two tripods and two tripod heads. I actually had more tripods, but I didn't have any heads to go on them. So I needed both tripods, one for each camera. I like to put up a light that illuminates the foreground at a very low level, and that just makes the whole scene come alive. If you put it way off to the side at more than 90 degrees away, it just creates a lot of drama to the time lapse. But I couldn't do that. The best place to do it, the higher you do it, the better it works. The further away you are, the better it works. However, I just couldn't do that because I didn't have a tripod for the lights that I brought. So I just balanced them on some stones and did the best I could. The result is that I had some time lapses where the foreground was just overblown. Even though I had the lights on one lume or 1%, the lowest possible brightness that you could use, it was too bright because I put them on the ground and shined them up against the foreground elements. I should have tried something else, maybe put a towel over it. I just didn't have the right things for that night. Forgetting the backpack was mistake number one, but insisting on using the foreground lighting was mistake number two. I really would have been better off with natural lighting. I decided to go ahead and do the 2 time lapses, and the results are, well, a little bit disappointing to me. Again, the foreground is overblown. I don't think these time lapses are among my better ones, and I doubt if they will sell. I will still upload them, and we'll see what happens. The other thing I wanted to do that night was track the Milky Way with a 35mm lens. This zooms in a little bit and gives you fantastic detail. I wanted to track the Milky Way, and then I wanted to do some foreground shots where I could put that Milky Way on it and do some shots that I'd learned from watching Richard Tati's channel, where you light paint the foreground and take background images of the Milky Way. I'll put the link for his videos here. This really worked out well. Even though I didn't have the star tracker, what I did was put the 35mm lens on the Astro modified camera. I put them at 10-second intervals, and I took 30 shots in different orientations: landscape, portrait, different parts of the Milky Way, and different foreground elements so that I could blend them together. Then I took those, stacked them with Starry Landscape Stacker, and processed them the way I process all Milky Way pictures. The results of these shots were really phenomenal. They were just beautiful. They were stunning. To me, getting out and doing these types of pictures and these types of landscapes is a lot more than stock video. I love doing this. I would do this regardless of what happened to it. I'm disappointed with the time lapses, but I'm really happy with the light painted images and with the stacked images of the Milky Way. If you've ever had one of those days when everything went wrong, but you were still able to make the most of it, that you still had a good time, leave me a comment. I think this type of thing has happened to everybody, and I think it's important that you just learn to adapt and make the most of it. Thank you for watching. I enjoy making these videos. Have a good day.